Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and a bonus episode on our Capcom CPS 2 series. Definitely wanted to cover Super Muscle Bomber, but for some reason I didn't include it in the top 10 list of games I wanted to play, but considering on the FM Towns Marty when I covered the original, it was a lot of fun. Definitely wanted to show you this one. Now compared to the first game of the series, this is wildly different as it's more like a 2D fighting game than a quasi 3D wrestling game. On the original game, you could move up and down in the ring and on the screen, giving you that kind of like pseudo 3D fighting style, where this game is pure 2D single plane action. But visually, it is an amazing game. It's definitely one that I really like, even if I'm not great at it. It reminds me a lot of Matra Melee on the MVS and AES, where each stage is basically occurring in the same arena, but all that background art changes depending on what character you're using. And right now we're in Mexico with that luchador kind of looking character, Stinger there, and he's definitely got a lot of aerial moves like you would expect a general luchador to have. The interesting thing about this game is the fact that it has never been ported off the CPS 2 system. You can definitely emulate it in MAME, but you're not going to find this game on any compilation for PlayStation 1, 2, or otherwise. Even the new Capcom arcade stick that came out doesn't include this, so this is definitely locked into the arcades, but MAME is going to be an excellent option for you if you do want to play this game and not invest in the B-board. Because while I really enjoyed this game, I would definitely say the original was more fun, just because it was like a traditional wrestling game with some fighting combos included, where this, like I said, occurring on that single 2D plane definitely feels way more like a 2D fighting game. But considering the CPS2 had so many good 2D fighting games on it, this game kind of slots in a really strange area. Now, I definitely picked Hagar because how can you not? One of my favorite characters of all time from Capcom, so it's definitely something fun to play around with. You get a lot of good voice samples in the game as well. I would say that it is quite difficult. It's a lot more fun as a two-player game than as a single-player game, but obviously for the capture, I'm playing against the computer. But if you get a friend together and you play this, have a couple beers, it's definitely a lot of fun and a great experience. Now that we're on to the second stage, you can see that while it does occur in the same general arena concept as far as that background stage art's concerned, you get this giant girder flying back and forth, which looks like there's a guy in a hard hat. I don't know if they're working on the arena. Who knows? But that's why I mentioned that it reminds me of Matra Melee, because in that game as well, you had the fighting arena and you had different backgrounds going on in each. It doesn't feel as exciting as having a traditional stage for each individual combatant, but it is kind of a fun concept all around. Control-wise, it definitely uses more buttons than the original game, so you're going to need a kick harness involved to make that work, but otherwise, it feels relatively responsive, although a lot of the combos kind of execute in different ways depending on what character you pick, and I don't have any character really mastered down, so my gameplay is decent, but I'm definitely playing this as someone who's just enjoying it, not someone who's spent a lot of time trying to learn all the different characters and their associated combos. But I feel like that's kind of how you're going to play this game if you encounter it. It doesn't seem like the type of game that you're going to master every single character, but you're going to kind of like poke around at it, play it with friends, see it in the arcade and give it a round or two. And it has enough depth in its control without having known every single command, but you are going to have fun with it. Now you have the stage against Colt in LA, and there's a giant peanut in a top hat in the back. I'm not sure if that's some sort of Mr. Peanut in reference or if it's just some of the fun stage art, but you can see that everything changes color-wise, so even though you are in the same kind of general ring area, the ring changes, the background changes, so it's enough visually to be interesting, although like I said, I do wish it had individual stages for each fighter, or even like a back alley stage, something fun like that. I think that's actually a cowboy hat, not a top hat on that peanut, so maybe it's close to Mr. Peanut, but not quite. From stage 3, the game does get very difficult, and I will say that the difficulty curve ramps up quickly on Super Muscle Bomber, and that's just kind of standard for Capcom arcade games. They're definitely there to take your quarters, but it is fun. I was playing this on the normal difficulty, and I could have turned it down. I tried at one point, but honestly, the CPU characters don't do a whole lot when you turn the difficulty down, so it was just me beating up on stationary characters, so that was a little bit disappointing. So as opposed to showing you more rounds with easier gameplay, I'm kind of showing you what the general experience is if you're going to encounter this in an actual arcade environment, or if you buy it and use it at your home. I am surprised that this never was ported, even on like a compilation disc. I'm not sure what the reception was when this game came out back in the 90s, just because I never actually played it in arcades, never even saw it. But it is a fun enough game where I'm surprised that it didn't get some sort of port outside of the arcade. Is it worth tracking down and checking out? If you emulate it, definitely. Would I recommend you buy a B board to have this in your collection? If you're super into the Muscle Bomber series, definitely go ahead. But if you're looking for a good 2D fighting experience, there's definitely a lot better games on the platform with that type of money you're going to be spending that I would recommend over this. I am playing this on my Darksoft multi-board. I don't have the B-board on this, and I don't think that I would include it in my collection. I definitely enjoy the game, but not enough to drop the type of money that they're asking for something like this board. But like I said, it is a fun experience to play. It's a two-player game. You got a lot of different characters. The art and the animation in the back is nice. Those crowds are definitely rocking up and down. There's been a lot of attention to detail put in from Capcom, but that's kind of what you expect with them when they make a game. They definitely go all out and include so much different visual flair, but you're getting an awesome experience. You get that lip in the background saying bravo when you win. So there's a lot of fun things to look at. But it's not the deepest gameplay ever. It's deep enough so that you're going to learn it and enjoy it, but not so deep that it's something that you're going to want to come back to time and time again. You'll see the character there turned red. You can do some different associated powerful attacks when they get enraged, which is the term that I found online. I didn't make it up. Don't know if it's correct or not, but we'll go with it. But you'll see here that I do beat Colt. Depending on what character you pick, some of the matches are easier or harder. I would definitely say Kamala is a little bit of an overpowered character. You can definitely just use his punches or kicks and poke at your opponent and definitely take a lot of the life bar off. He is a little bit slower of a character and controls a little bit differently, but I definitely kind of jived with him when I was playing, and now we're going up to Calgary. I think this might be Owen Hart. If you watched wrestling, I haven't in a long time, but when I was a kid, I watched it a lot. And Owen Hart and the Hart brothers were from Calgary, I believe, if my memory serves correctly. But for some reason, this looks like Saber might be an Owen Hart style character. But that's just me. Short of that, that is Muscle Bomber, or Super Muscle Bomber. It's definitely a fun game. I recommend you checking it out. I definitely would emulate it, as opposed to buying it, unless you're definitely into wrestling games or played this before and want to add it to your collection. But short of that, this was just a little bonus episode we wanted to include in the series. We'll have the actual last game coming up next week, and we'll have another On a Technicality video on Friday, as well as those M2 morsels on Sunday. But if you could do me a huge favor, go down below and hit like and subscribe. It takes us a lot of time to make each one of these games, and we definitely hope you enjoyed the CPS2 series so far. It's been a lot of fun making it. I definitely love having this hardware in my collection, being able to play on my couch with friends. Saber here definitely giving me a hard time. You can get some good hits in on him, but like I said, as this game gets further in, the difficulty just keeps ramping up, and he's going to throw those grenades, just kind of poke at me. It gets difficult to close the gap with Saber and be able to attack him, and you will see that I get really close to beating him, but then he gets me in the end. But thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you on Friday for a Technicality episode, and then back next week for more CPS2 stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.